Hey everyone, it's Jack and Sharps, and we're back. You aren't going to say anything, Jack?
Oh, I thought you were going to introduce me, mate. Are we that out of practice?
Because 23 of our subscribers know who you are.
You really think
Oh,
they care
man.
about me?
Alright, we've been gone for too long. A lot has obviously happened in the gaming world. But let's start the way we always do, angrily. And I want to talk about Blizzard. Okay?
Why are you angry at
Now,
Blizzard?
I'm not angry at Blizzard, I'm more angry at Activision. Okay, so in between the time we stopped recording this and now, one of the games that I was most hyped about releasing was the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake.
Yes.
It was fantastic. It was
Yes, it was.
it was as good as I think anyone wanted it to be. Like, all things considered, considering this is Vicarious Visions, not Neversoft that we all know and love, and is now no longer existing. Fuck, I can't even speak. There's something that really annoyed me about this, right? Vicarious Visions did an amazing job. Why on earth is Activision now forcing them to work in the Blizzard mines?
Because it's for Diablo 2.
I don't give a fuck. They made, arguably, one of the best remakes of a game ever.
That's why
It's
they're...
definitely...
Well,
It's up there as one of the best recent ones.
did you see what happened when they tried to do a remake themselves? It was Warcraft 3
I don't give a
Reforged.
shit. Dude, literally, if you
The people who
go
worked
to-
on that...
There were
that
so many
entire
comments.
branch is gone.
Jack, there were so many comments on YouTube, on Facebook, on any social media of people praising the Tony Hawk remake. And a lot of people, so many people were like, I really hope they make Pro Skater 3 and 4. So many people now want 3 and 4. But it's not going to be made by Vicarious Visions, meaning we're back to square one. We're back to a studio. We're not sure who's going to take it up or even if it's in the works. But it's not going to be Vicarious Visions who've proven themselves. If I was in charge at
But I
Activision,
need
I would
Diablo
say,
2.
I don't give a fuck. Blizzard can make it themselves. Bro, it's Control-C, Control-V, and up the graphics. Hell, they could just re-release it as it was, and people would buy the shit out of it.
But that's the point. They tried to do that with Reforged and it didn't work, so they have to do something else now.
Look, there were plenty of reasons people were pissed that Reforged. Plenty of them.
All valid,
But
mostly.
I am so frustrated that we won't see Vicarious Visions making Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. Well, remaking it, I should say.
I'm just like, what do they do
I'm
after
stunned.
Diablo 2, though? Like, no, Activision doesn't have that much stuff that they need to go and remaster. And they're supposedly the
They'll make a
remaster
PS5
kings.
port of Overwatch. Look, honestly, man, don't get me wrong. Like, Diablo 2 is a much loved game and everything, but Activision needs to understand Vicarious Visions proved themselves, and with a fan base like the Tony Hawk fan base who hadn't seen a good game in well over 10 years, you've got to understand that means something. This is the happiest fans of the series have been since Neversoft. And Activision now have said to them, right, you've proved yourself. Now you're working in the Blizzard salt mines. I honestly think it's a bad decision. I really, really hope Diablo 2 turns out well because I do like Vicarious Visions. They've done a great job. They were also responsible for the Crash Insane trilogy, which they did a good job on.
They did a very
But
good job.
I think this is a bad move on their part, personally.
I disagree, only because they knew they needed that remaster. It was already people already speculated they were doing that anyway. It was just when they announced, hey, we're, part of Activision now, everyone was like, so you are working on the Diablo port that everyone thought that was happening. So,
Okay.
you can't blame them for trying to,
You can't blame them for what?
we've got this asset, these are what these guys are really good at, let's use it.
I honestly think Vicarious Visions could be more than just a studio that does remakes and ports.
Oh, 100%.
I think there are some very, very talented people there.
Clearly.
It'd be nice if they got some creative freedom to make their own games.
Maybe that's the point, though. They're going to have them prove it.
But if you're going to have them do ports, let them take what they worked on with the Tony Hawk games. Because now you've got a fully functioning game. They've got everything there. They can take so much of the code and all that stuff from the 1 and 2 remake and make 3 and then 4. Or at least let them continually support the game. Hire more people, expand Vicarious Visions, and make them separate teams. Don't just sit there and say, alright, you proved yourself, onto Diablo. Remakes. It's not worth it, personally.
On to the next remaster.
Speaking of games that are no longer alive, Anthem.
Oh boy. That train wreck is finally...
Jack, you are my witness. You are my witness. When they tweeted out, and when it came out that they said, oh, we're going to take a week to decide Anthem's fate. Did I or did I not say that it's dead?
I think we all thought, they should be going that direction, but will they? I didn't have the faith that they would have the right decision to finally go, you know what? Anthem, it's going to take too much. It's going to be too much of a problem to try and redo this, so let's just cut it. I didn't think they were smart enough to do that, so... Because they haven't, yeah. That sort of game, a looter shooter, how much microtransactions could you pull out of that? It's just like a walking goldmine.
Look, it's not about the genre, because you can make any game in any genre and throw microtransactions onto it.
Right,
it's doable with any genre. But Anthem had an uphill battle from the start, where there was so much mismanagement, there was so many people who didn't have a clear vision of what the final product was going to be. I think my favorite bit of trivia about the development of Anthem is BioWare forbid people to mention Destiny within the studio. Which, let's be honest, that was their main competition. But
it's still the main competition in that genre, because unfortunately Division's burnt out a little bit.
I've started a lot of arguments by saying I think BioWare was slightly, still are slightly overrated as a studio. I think there's a lot of talented people there, but I don't put them up top with, the best studios in terms of the quality of games they've put out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've explained my reasons to you guys, but just for the people, listening at home. Mass Effect 1, I'm talking from Mass Effect and Dragon Age, that era of BioWare. Mass Effect 1 was great, but was clunky as shit in terms of its gameplay. Dragon Age Origins ran like absolute turd on consoles. Then there was Mass Effect 2, which was great. They improved on the gameplay, they wrote another good story. Dragon Age 2 pissed off the whole fan base. Inquisition was alright, but then there was Mass Effect 3, which was one of the most controversial situations that year that it released. Because of the ending, and people felt like it wasn't worth it. And then they made Andromeda. I don't need to explain it. It was Mass Effect Andromeda. That's enough to sort of sit there and say, yeah, nah, it's not worth it.
It's a bit hit and miss, isn't it?
I mean, they do have a good pedigree. They were responsible for the old Knights of the Old Republic games. So, I mean, they have made great games before, but I don't know. From the moment I saw Anthem, I wasn't happy with it. I mean, it's an EA game.
I think it looked cool. It looked cool, but everyone was... I think a lot of people were like, EA's been a bit hit and miss of late.
EA have been very hit and miss of late. It's
still...
You know what's funny, right? I was actually talking to a friend of mine, and I don't know if this is true, because I haven't had time to personally research it, but he was telling me originally BioWare wanted to use the Unreal Engine, right? And the thing about the Unreal Engine is it's so widespread. There's so much support for it. It's a great engine. EA did not want to pay to use the Unreal Engine, because I think with Unreal, if you make a certain amount of money, If you're using the Unreal Engine on a product, Epic take a certain percentage of that. And so EA said, no, we don't want to pay for that. Here, I'll use the Frostbite engine. And the Frostbite series of engines, right, they're great. They're absolutely great for Battlefield. They're absolutely fantastic for making these, massive first-person shooters and making destruction look very pretty. Not great when you throw it at FIFA and Need for Speed. And it's an engine that's proprietary to EA. No one else knows how to use it. So then you had, particularly for FIFA, actually, not even Anthem, but FIFA more so, EA pulling people from DICE to go and work on FIFA because they knew the engine better. Anthem was just never going to work. I remember when they said, okay, we're going to change. This is like a year and a half in, and they were like, oh yeah, we're going to change everything with Anthem. We're going to support it differently. We're going to rebuild the game. If you have to do that a year and a half in, there's a 99% chance your product is already dead in the water and you should cut your losses.
Yeah, it's not exactly when you're trying to build a massive game going, hey, let's, 1.5 years
You never,
in, let's
personally,
just redo it.
I would never, ever, ever release a game and then down the line say, let's reinvent it. Because it'll go one of two ways. It'll go the way Anthem went, where the product was dead already. It's a year and a half old, so it's not new enough to be relevant, and it's not old enough to be nostalgic. It didn't have that big of a fan base.
No.
And the other time, me and you will absolutely remember this, where they reinvented a game, was Paragon. Where they completely changed some of the systems in the game. And some people went, this is alright. And other people went, wait, what the fuck is this? The old system was better.
Oh, yeah.
I've said this to you guys multiple times. I've said this to all of our mates and everything. Launch is the most important moment for your game. And it's even more important when you're at a AAA level. When you're paying that many employees to make something, if you don't launch right and you have to work to get the game to where you wanted it after launch, that is so costly.
It's not a good point.
That is so costly. You need to be able to sell your game, and you need to really make sure your game's worth it. And it's why I've always said the one thing you can bet on with games at a AAA level is if you make a good product. Because at that level, you've got marketing, so much money's been thrown at that. Everyone knows your game. Everyone knows it's coming out. And if you do deliver that good of a game, people will know. Look at God of War, for example.
People will pay attention.
Look at God of War, for example, Jack. Don't get me wrong, God of War was a much-loved series well before the PS4 version. It was... I remember Honest Game trailers. They were like, it was the reason your parents wouldn't get you a PS2. Well, I love that little quote. But when God of War on the PS4 came out, I remember every single media outlet 9, 10, 10, 10, 9, and everyone was just praising the shit out of it. And it's weird. I grew up on PlayStation, but I'd never played a God of War game. I picked it up, and it was legitimately and objectively, I think, one of the best PS4 games that came out during the lifespan of the PS4.
I wasn't going to get it, but I got it because of the reaction that people had to it, and I was like, wow, people were saying this is amazing. I haven't played a God of War game before.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same thing with Spider-Man. I was on the fence about it. Don't get me wrong, I had faith it was going to be a good product. I just wasn't sure it was for me.
Yeah.
But then all the positive reviews started coming out. I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And lo and behold, Insomniac just did what they do best, and they made a very, 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 very good game. But yeah, man, you cannot fuck up launch, and if you try to rebuild, post-launch, you have to do it right. Very, very, very few games can crawl back what they wanted. And even the ones that don't get to where they wanted originally. You remember how big No Man's Sky was?
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Like,
and
that's about the only
even
one I
even
can
though
think
No
of.
Man's even though No Man's Sky has been supported very, very well by Hello Games, and you know, everyone I know that plays it always tells me, oh, you know, it's a much better game now, and like everyone.
I've seen a lot of what they've done. It looks really cool now, and part of me wants to jump in, but I've got enough games I want to play.
The thing is, though, even with that, the reputation is tainted.
Yeah.
Like, there are people that
You
will
don't get
never
that
pick up. There are people that will never pick up No Man's Sky at full price because of its launch. It's a much better game now, but there are people who won't pay the whatever, like $40 it is in stores still. And the other one that came to mind was The Division, if you remember that.
Yes, I do. We all played
It was actually, believe it or not, you know, Division was, I think, Ubisoft's fastest selling game at its release.
I do remember that, yeah.
It was, in terms of its initial sales, it was fantastically successful. And then the player base just dropped off a cliff, like, a week or two in. It was, like, and I say this with, look, whenever we criticize games, I should say, we respect all developers. Game development is hard as shit. But the game was, to many people, so underwhelming. And they just dropped it.
Yeah.
And it took The Division, I remember, a good few years. And it wasn't until one of their major updates that people started coming back to the game.
It was
and
like
saying,
Division 2.0 almost.
Yeah, I think it was called like the survival expansion or something like that. But they added in a new like survival type game mode, and people started to come back to it. They didn't get back to their peak, but hey, you know, the player base spiked up a little bit. And that's impressive. Because in this day and age, people play games for, 10 minutes and then they move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to have some of your player base come back to a game that was considered underwhelming or a disappointment, however you want to word it, to get players back in and have a spike like that, it shows that they did something right. But, there is something that we do need to confess, don't we, Jack?
What do we need to confess?
We both got PS5s.
Oh yeah, we're actually a couple of people that actually have. Might be...
Okay.
I'm surprised how many of our group actually have it.
Yeah, no, we got extremely lucky. Me, you, Clinton, Ethan, Dan, like we
Now Amph.
all... It was literally only Amph, and that's because I think Amph was like in class or something when it happened, and he just missed it. But like the rest of us got him at launch.
You know, we've just made our 22 subscribers hate us.
Yeah, you know what? I reckon like if you could watch like a live subscriber count, it's just gonna start to drop when this goes live, assuming they watch. But
hey, you lost 10 subscribers. That's a shame, but it's only 10. Yeah, that was half.
We've pissed off 50% of our subscribers. But like honestly, I'm still shocked at the fact that like we're almost a good 6 months in, and people still can't get their hands on PS5. They're still in the hands of scalpers. It's ridiculous.
Can I say though, they're not missing out on a whole heap though at the moment. I feel. How many PS5 games are you playing that are PS5 exclusives?
To be honest, the only PS5 exclusive, and I mean proper exclusive, that I've played is Astro's Playroom, which comes on the PS5.
See, I've at least played Miles.
No, I've played Miles, but it's on the PS4 too.
Yeah, I forget that. But, enhanced for it and...
Yeah, oh no, don't get me wrong. It's obviously improved on the PS5. And Insomniac, look, you're one of my favourite studios, but fuck you for releasing the Performance RT mode after I finished the game. But no, look, Miles was a fantastic game. I'm glad I got to play it on my PS5 and on my nice 4K TV and everything, but it was on the PS4. In fact, I think the only two games at launch that were legitimate PS5 exclusives were not Miles Morales. What the fuck am I saying? Astro's Playroom and Demon Souls.
Yeah. And
no offense to anyone who likes the Souls games, but they are a niche.
Well, but not even that. It's a remaster. It's not even a new game.
Yes, they're like, I don't know how many people said this, but there's bound to be at least one person who went, I put enough time on PS3 on Demon Souls, I don't want to play it again.
100%.
And that's it. 50% of your exclusives now don't mean anything.
and then one's like a free game you're giving away. So, I feel like there's definitely some more games that they could bring out that make people want it. But at the moment, I'm just like, yeah, people don't have it. But I'm also like, don't know what you're missing out on entirely.
But there are a good, few games on the way that I am excited for. Obviously, Ratchet's my favorite series, so Rift Apart is one that...
Oh boy.
I absolutely can't wait to get my hands on. Also, there's a new Gran Turismo. I know you don't play racing games, but I love the attention to detail.
I played Gran Turismo 3 a lot.
That was my first PS2 game. GTA 3.
It's one of my first ones. I don't know how early, but it's definitely one of the first ones I had.
Yeah, there's that. The one that I'm still interested in and want to hear more of... Actually, there's two. One is Kena Bridge of Spirits. Do you remember that one?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Like those little black critters that follow you and the main character has a bow.
You have my interest. Main character has a bow.
I guarantee if you see it, you'll remember it.
Probably.
But that one I liked. And I really want to see more of it. And the other one is... what's it called? It was literally just in my head. Little Devil Inside.
That looks interesting.
That looked very interesting. So, that's... Those three games, I should say, in my opinion, were assuming that they're all PS5 exclusives. I think Ratchet's confirmed to be a PS5 exclusive.
I think that's the whole point. It's meant to be showcasing the power.
But I mean, honestly, I'm happy with my PS5 purchase. I do not regret it one bit.
No, I've been playing some older games like Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
I've got I don't think Immortals was PS5 only because they had it on Switch and Xbox, but it definitely looks nice on PS5. I played that, and I played AC Valhalla, which that game had its share of bugs, but it wasn't because of the PS5 specifically, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I don't regret the purchase, but I'd like some more games.
I will say this part, and I didn't think I would say this prior to launch, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about this prior to launch, and you'll know my opinions changed. The PS5 controller is fantastic.
It is fantastic.
I love it.
If you don't have Joy-Con drift...
We'll get to that in a sec. So, I was very, very vocal with you boys about my opinion on the PS4 controller when we spoke about it. I said it was full of gimmicky shit. The only good addition I thought to the PS4 controller was a headphone jack. Other than that,
use that for a short while.
Other than that, I was not impressed with it. It had a battery that just did not last. It didn't feel... look, I know I'm in the minority here, but I did like the PS3 controller. But I didn't... It didn't feel nice in the hand, the PS4 controller. So when the PS5, still kept the trackpad, still kept the speaker, and, it looked quite a bit different, I was like, okay, well, what's it going to feel like? What's it going to play like? They improved the battery life, which long battery life should be a standard on controllers. If your controller lasts less than maybe...
We want to play for a while.
Honestly, if your controller lasts less than 6 hours, I'm not happy with it. Seriously, one of the reasons I love the Nintendo Switch's Pro controller is because it lasts for so fucking long. Seriously, I could probably count the amount of times I've charged it, and, it's probably less than 20, and I've played a heap of Switch. It's so good. Such a very, very nice, well-made controller, and it's comfy and everything. So that's the first thing the PS5 controller did right. The other thing is it actually does feel a lot more comfortable than the PS4
Also, that Pro controller doesn't have Joy-Con drift.
You're never going to let Nintendo forget about this, are you?
3 of my 4 controllers have Joy-Con drift.
Deja. Nah, look. I'm with you. I would be pissed. I'm happy that I don't rely on the Joy-Cons. I've used my Pro Controller. I treat my
No, but
Switch
it's like
more...
it's because I'll give controllers out to people when we're playing like team games or group games.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh, this controller isn't working." I'm like, "No, it's the drift." And I'll usually give myself one because I'm not, I'm not a bad guy.
You give yourself the only good controller.
No, I'll give myself one of the bad controllers. I'm a good guy like that.
Yeah. But, look...
But it
honestly,
shouldn't be something I should have to deal with.
No, I'm with you there. I think it's like a massive... Yeah, for the Switch, it was a massive issue. I remember how much it was, blowing up.
They're going to court for it.
Well, yeah.
So.
I mean, I think that, like, if that many people are experiencing drift, then I think you can consider the controllers a defective product.
Correct.
I remember I was watching Scott the Woz. I don't know if you watch him, but when he was talking about the Switch Lite, he goes, the downside is if you get Joy-Con drift with this, now the whole system needs to be replaced because you can't separate the Joy-Cons on the Switch Lite. Which I'm not a fan of the Switch Lite personally. Like I just prefer my Switch being able to dock. I could still play it in handheld mode.
I've definitely
regardless.
used it more in docked mode, but I love having the freedom. Because I only really dock it, I think, for group games. But then, I've played it plenty, on the train or, just on my way to work and stuff. So, it's definitely good to have it portable, I think. And it's not like it's that much cheaper to get.
It's what, $100?
Yeah.
Something like that. And look, I understand if you only have, the $3.99 or whatever it is here in Australia right now. If you only have the exact amount for the Lite and you really, really want the Switch games, I can understand it if you have no plans on using it docked. But why not just get the original Switch for extra functionality?
Yeah.
At this point, the only reason I would not buy a Switch is if you're holding out hope that there's a 4K one on the way. Which I honestly think they will have a more powerful Switch. I don't know when. I don't work for Nintendo, so I've got no fucking idea.
Do you think that's really what people wanted at that Nintendo Direct? Do people overhype themselves for that?
I don't think it's what people wanted or expected for the Nintendo Direct, but I definitely think that if there are a few people who are like, yeah, it'd be nice if the Switch was more powerful. And then, at the same time, I think people should also realize, hey, if it's more powerful, it might need more power. So your battery's probably going to drain quicker in handheld.
Nah.
And I can't imagine, like, unless they make a Nintendo Switch where you're forced to keep it permanently docked, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, if they make the opposite of the Switch Lite, the Switch Heavy, you can't play it in handheld. If they do that, then maybe, but I don't know how Nintendo will pull it off. But then again, if you had told me before the Switch released that, hey, you're going to be able to play, like, your proper console games handheld on the go, I, probably would have said that's pretty tough to pull off as well. So, we'll see what Nintendo do.
Hey, I could play Diablo 2 remaster on Switch, so,
We're not jumping back to that.
Why not? Diablo.
No, because I don't want to talk about Vicarious Visions anymore. Because I'm annoyed.
Diablo.
Man, there's so much stuff that's happened ever since we stopped recording. So many gaming things that we need to talk about. Something I want to bring up.
Oh no, I'm scared.
And I'm gonna get serious at this point, right?
That is means for me to be scared.
I would bet on it that Josh and Amph would agree with me on this. Right? Working conditions in the video game industry really need to improve. The fact that it's 2021 and people are still working in such, shit conditions for some of the worst pay. They're being overworked. Some are working 12, 16 hours. Crunch is still a major issue. I think it's fucking ridiculous. I honestly have no idea why...
Crunch in general is just not cool.
Not just that, man, but it's like... I'll give you an example of one studio that I lost a lot of respect for. Do you remember Treyarch?
Remind me games they did.
Treyarch are the Call of Duty Black Ops developers.
Okay, it is that. Cool.
So they made like Black Ops 1, 2, 3, 4, Cold War, obviously. Reports came out right now. Listen, the unsung heroes of game development are your QA guys and girls. Right? If you work in QA, I fucking salute you. It's a job that so many people would not be able to do. And it requires a lot of focus. It requires a lot of...
People think it's really fun. Like, you're just, just play the game and do this. And like, it's like, no. Go stand in this corner. Make sure this works.
People think when you're like... When you say, oh, yeah, I'm doing QA or I'm testing a game, they think like, oh, you're just playing the game all day. And like, I've had experience QAing in a studio. And it's like... When I tell people, oh yeah, we go through the game, we make sure it works perfectly and everything like that. People are like, oh yeah, so you play the game. I'm like, no, I don't just play the fucking game. Like,
it's not all I do.
But back on topic, did you know that they would have QA people working throughout the night and they would turn the aircon off in the summer?
Ew.
There were reports from, I think this was Treyarch as well, of people earning about $3.25 an hour. The QA team were given different coloured key cards to get into the building, and they were restricted access to talk to the other developers. They were sort of only allowed to report to their team leaders.
That's not a good idea.
And it's like, yeah, okay, we've used Treyarch as an example, but they're not alone.
No,
CD Projekt Red. See, I've never seen, Jack, a studio's reputation tank as hard as CD Projekt Red's. Leading up to the release of Cyberpunk, all the way up until maybe about a month before it actually released.
Golden Goose.
Everyone loved CD Projekt Red. I remember when CD Projekt Red opened the pre-orders for Cyberpunk, a huge percentage of PC players bought it on GOG because it's owned by CD Projekt Red and they got all the money. That's how much people wanted to support this studio. And what did they do? They put their employees through hell. They misled... They deliberately misled the public on how the game was. They misled their investors.
They were not happy at all.
Bro, I saw a tweet today from the Cyberpunk team, right? A major update that was meant to be released for Cyberpunk, I think in the near future, has been pushed back to the second half of March, right? And obviously, they said, look, this isn't the news we want to give you, but we really want to make sure that, this update delivers on what we promise.
Which,
and the entire, Jack, I kid you not, every response I saw was people mocking them. Because so many people just lost respect for them. No one sees Cyberpunk as, CD Projekt Red as that golden goose anymore.
No.
Cyberpunk's been one of the biggest gaming letdowns in the last few years, at least.
The other one that did that was, who I think they were relatively, everyone's like, they do good games, nothing too bad about them, was Bethesda, and then Fallout 76 happened, and then, yeah.
I mean, Bethesda's a weird case because no one plays a Bethesda game and expects a bug-free experience.
No, but it was...
Like, even before Fallout 76, everyone used to, joke about
Yeah, but that wasn't
Bethesda
just
games.
even the bugs, though. It was so much other stuff. And
often
their bugs, at least, they were funny, or,
Honestly, Fallout 76 was one of the biggest disasters, I think, in the gaming industry that we've seen in modern history. In fact, for the people who are listening to this, all three of you, thank you. I know two of you are probably Amph and Josh, seeing if me and Jack fuck this up. But to the one person that's
we haven't yet, I think.
I hope not. To the one person that's listening, if you haven't seen Internet Historian's video, The Fall of 76, it's a long video and it just outlines so much that went wrong with Fallout 76. Everything from the misleading
you think it's going to
to
stop,
bugs,
and then he just keeps going. You think, it couldn't get worse, and then it just keeps going. It just gets worse and worse.
It ended up becoming a legal case. I don't know if you remember that, but what had happened was, long story short, essentially, if you remember, one of the pre-orders was the Power Armor edition. And it was like the highest pre-order. It cost like a good few $100. So, it's a big investment.
Yeah.
And it was meant to come with a canvas bag, and instead they gave you like a fucking nylon shopping bag.
Oh boy, that canvas bag.
And they were like, "Oh yeah, we can't source the materials, quote unquote." And it turned into a legal case. Between all the bugs, and people had claimed that they're going to release an unfinished game and eventually just patch it until it's something workable. They screwed us out of our money now. It killed Bethesda's reputation.
Yeah.
But I mean, there were so many studios who, like, every time you release a game, your reputation's on the line.
100%.
And it's tough when you're just like some random artist, some random dev, especially like if you're young and it might be your first major game that you're working on. You might have
plenty of people who CD Projekt Red, Cyberpunk would have been their first game. They didn't have any of the Witch stuff, but they probably hired more people, or people just moved on. You had other people working on it, and they were like, I want to make this awesome game with this awesome company, and it didn't happen.
I think I know a few people have covered it, like in depth, but I think one thing that doesn't get enough attention is how troubled the development of Cyberpunk was.
Oh yeah.
We all know that it was a case where like there was a lot of miscommunication. I think my favorite thing that I found out, and that I would have been horrified if I was working at Cyberpunk, was people actually thought the release date when it first got announced, like internal developers at CD Projekt Red thought the release date was 2022. They thought it was going to be the end of 2022. And it's CD Projekt was like, yeah, it'll happen. It'll release in, what was the original release date? What was it, 2018 or something?
No, well, I thought it was still last year. It was meant to.
No, they delayed it. They delayed it heaps. No, sorry, you're right. It was April last year.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. I'm fucking all over.
No, it was just the fact they got delayed that many times. But also, it's like, and that was before COVID. They didn't know they would have to have a year where they were working on it from home.
I can't remember who said it. I think it might have been Josh. But someone had said, like, what the hell was it? What the hell did it look like around the time of that April release date?
I'm pretty sure Josh and I both said that. We were like, my God, what was it? What was it then if it released in a buggy mess?
I have no idea what the hell happened.
I have no idea what happened.
But look, there were some good games that came out, right? And one of my highlights of 2020, right? Even though this game did not come out in 2020, it's a remaster that came out in 2020. No More Heroes!
You have been enjoying that game.
I enjoyed the absolute shit out of No More Heroes 1 and 2. I never had a Wii, but I always sort of liked the art style and the sort of premise of the game, and I was like, I said for ages, I think since I got my Switch, I was like, man, I hope they bring No More Heroes 1 and 2 to the Switch. And No More Heroes 3 got announced for the Switch, so I'm like, okay, now bring 1 and 2.
Now's my chance.
And then I remember, like, there was a Nintendo Direct, and it was like stupidly early in the morning for us. So I didn't even bother waking up for it. I'm just like, you know what, I'll watch it when I wake up.
Most of the Nintendo Directs.
I opened a chat head on, like, a Facebook chat on my phone that morning, and the first thing I see is a message from Amph tagging me. Sharps! No More Heroes 1 and 2 on Switch! I literally bought them that day. And the best part is they were $30 each. And the best part is, when they released them, they had them on sale for it was like $25 each.
So that's that's so good.
That was, I'm happy with that, man. That's $50 well spent. Now, release Mad World.
What's Mad World? Is that a sequel or?
No. It's a completely different game. It was, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a way to put this. Imagine a very gory game show in black and white. It looks like such a blast. It was like one of those games where they tried to make the Wii look like it was a serious, like, hardcore gamer console and not just like a casual thing.
Bet that one more.
Hey man, have you seen how much the Wii sold? I think they did alright.
I think they, they got their money's worth.
But no, I mean... Oh, one game I actually finished last year as well, and this will piss people off. I finally got around to finishing Breath of the Wild.
Ooh.
And...
This is when I say I've only played 20 hours of it, and people...
I know, and I've yelled at you to play more.
I know.
But Breath of the Wild hit like a drug, and it's something very few games can do with me. Where I start playing it, and I'm like, okay, I've picked up an apple, I've picked up a stick, I killed a couple things, my stick broke.
See, I think that's the problem for me. That's that weapon durability that kills me.
No, but that's the thing. I kept playing, and by maybe the 5-hour mark, I started to get really, really invested into the game. And it happened... It was like a light switch. I went from, I really want to like this game, to, I fucking love this game. And even, like, just being out in the wild when it rains and you got to find, like, a place to, like, that's not getting rain to light your fire and rest for the night. It was fun, and honestly, I have a lot of good memories playing Breath of the Wild. It was such a phenomenal game. I love it.
One day I'll finish it.
But Super Mario Odyssey is better. And
Wow.
I will defend that opinion till the day I die.
Oh. Alright, now whatever subscribers we had left, they're gone.
Look, most of
Super Mario Odyssey is better than Breath of the Wild.
Let me explain why, okay?
Please do.
Put it this way, it's an opinion. It's not fact. It's not fact. If someone came up to me and said Breath of the Wild is better, I would absolutely understand. And I would say that's perfectly fine by me. Super Mario Odyssey did something that I have not done in years. It made me smile playing it. It was the first game I played on my Switch. And
was it? I didn't actually know
playing through it. Huh?
I didn't know it was your first game on Switch.
Yeah, I remember. Okay, so, for those who don't know, the Switch, my Switch was actually a gift from Jack and a few of the other boys. And they bought me 2 games. One was Breath of the Wild, one was Super Mario Odyssey.
See, I would have thought you would have loaded up Breath of the Wild first.
Yeah, no, I don't know why. Like, I installed them both, but the first legit game console I owned was a Game Boy Color, and my first game was Super Mario Bros. Deluxe. I don't know, man. I felt like I was in a Mario mood. I really, really wanted to see what Odyssey was like. And I fell in love with the fucking game. Seriously, it was so
It was a good game.
I genuinely enjoyed the absolute shit out of it. And I remember New Donk City.
I only played a little bit of Odyssey, but I did enjoy what I played. No.
Did you...
Well, whatever you're saying, no. Because I'm pretty sure I'm like on the first level post the tutorial level. Sake. I enjoyed what I played. I think something else. I was playing it between something, and then that came out, and then yeah.
I had not slept the night, not my birthday, but the night after, because I was dealing with insomnia, and I was dealing with I still am dealing with mental health issues, but I was really, really struggling back then, and I hadn't slept, and I needed to just get my mind off things. So I turned on my Switch, and Mario Odyssey was what I wanted to play. I got to New Donk City, and completed that level, and I, made the band all together. And then the festival prompt pops up, and it's like, hey Mario, do you want to stay for the festival or something like that? And hearing Jump Up Superstar as you go through the festival bit, I, for the first time in years, was thoroughly enjoying a game. I was legitimately smiling and happy with the experience. And that is not something I get very often. I don't know if it's because I studied game design and, that in a way ruins a lot of the magic of games for me. No, I'm being serious. That was one thing we got told on day one, is that learning game design will ruin your enjoyment of video games.
It's like how some people struggle with that, with actually making YouTube content and everything like that, their hobby. It's like it'll just making your hobby your work sometimes. Yeah. Makes it hard.
But holy shit, man. Like, Odyssey was one of those games that I really, really just had fun with. And it didn't feel like a chore. It felt like I could pick it up, put it down at any moment, but like...
See, that's a great trait in the game. People underestimate that.
It's like, it was perfect. And it was executed so well. The game, it didn't have any major flaws in my opinion. It controlled well, it ran well on the Switch, it was everything I wanted it to be, and more. And to sit there and actually enjoy a game for the first time in years was amazing. On the other end of the spectrum, GTA 5.
Oh boy.
I
How many people are you trying to annoy in one podcast?
I don't know, I'm trying to annoy everyone. I literally was... I won't be long on this topic, but I recently built my gaming PC. And one of the games that I was absolutely keen to dive back into is Grand Theft Auto 4. And obviously the complete edition, so including the episodes of Liberty City. For some reason, when it came to 5, I don't know what went through Rockstar's mind. I just didn't like the game. They made changes gameplay-wise, and certain things like the driving physics and things like that, it's a matter of opinion. Some people prefer it in 4, some prefer it in 5. I think most people prefer it in 5. I'm one of the people that likes 4's very weighty physics. But...
Because I don't remember playing 4, I don't think I have, but would you say 4's more realistic?
It was more grounded, for sure.
Right.
It was telling a much more serious story, for sure. But
You mean me knocking things off the top of my Phantom Wedge isn't real?
4 was so memorable with its characters, with its setting. I remember walking around Liberty City and just bumping into random pedestrians, and like you'd have like the hidden pedestrian like cutscene, and they'd have the little side missions of strangers and freaks as they'd go on, or call it in GTA 5. But in 4 it felt organic. Liberty City felt like a proper city people were living in. Like you can see a massive difference from like driving from a shithole part of Liberty City to a really nice part of Liberty City. In GTA 5 it feels like I drive for 2 minutes and I go from Franklin's Hood in Chamberlain Hills to the fucking skyscrapers of downtown, and you're just like, it doesn't have personality to it. It legitimately just feels like they've made this big sandbox and there's nothing there. No personality, no nothing. Gameplay wise, okay, they definitely made some improvements with how movement felt and things like that, but when you're playing a GTA game, you do not want the story to be a letdown. And honestly, I did not like Michael, Franklin, and Trevor.
Fair.
I dislike them all for many different reasons, but... And you know what, to be fair, they were played really well by their actors. Sean Fontano, Ned Luke, and Stephen Ogg. They had great performances. But it was the one Rockstar game I played where I was not satisfied with the story. And I'm absolutely in the minority for it. I only know I could count on one hand the amount of people that agree with what I'm saying. And I was worried for Rockstar. I thought, hey, Rockstar might actually be, going downhill. Then they released Red Dead Redemption 2.
I was going to say, then GTA Online happened, and it doesn't matter what happened in the mainline story.
honestly, after Red Dead 2 released, I was like, yeah, Rockstar's gonna be alright. And now Laszlo and Dan Houser are gone, so I'm gonna miss them in the writing room. I feel like, and a lot of the stuff, especially Laszlo with like the radio presence and things like that, I'm gonna miss that in GTA. But I'm eager to see what they do for whatever the hell Rockstar's next project is. Whether it's GTA, Bully 2, if by some magical stroke of luck they bring back the Midnight Club series. I'm keen to see what they do. I think, we've been running for about 51 minutes, Jack. Do you want to wrap up?
We can wrap up.
Alright, take us out then.
I do not remember our outro. That's why it's been too long.
We never really had one, eh?
Didn't we?
We just it'd just be like, oh yeah, bye, signing off, and we just stop fucking recording.
Well, this has been Jack. I'm signing off.
And Sharps. See yous.
Cheers.
It's good to be back.